Hello, my name is Praveen and I welcome you all to this course on GraphQL in my YouTube channel Java Fun. Today we're going to talk about GraphQL technology. What is exactly a GraphQL? What is the history of GraphQL? What are the core concepts of GraphQL? And how to implement the GraphQL endpoints using Spring Boot and Java. So if you think about GraphQL, it's kind of a buzzword in today's technical circles. Everyone is talking about GraphQL. So we need to think about how to implement this GraphQL for your project. So if you're coming to this course, I assume that you don't have any prior knowledge of GraphQL. So we're going to start with the basics. I'll explain you what exactly is the GraphQL technology, what are the core concepts of GraphQL, and how should we be implementing the GraphQL using Spring Boot. In this series, we're going to talk about two main implementation strategies for GraphQL. So those two implementation strategies are something called a schema first approach and the code first approach. We're going to create our Java programs using both of these implementation strategies. Okay, so for GraphQL, we'll see what is the history of GraphQL implementation. Prior to GraphQL, HTTP endpoints used to be implemented in SOAP or in the REST. So if you think about the REST or as well as SOAP, there are quite a few limitations that used to be encountered while its development. And GraphQL basically aims to solve all those limitations that we have in SOAP as well as REST. So GraphQL is basically developed in-house in Facebook, and they basically developed it when they were facing certain problems with their native Facebook app. And in around 2015, they open sourced it for the community. So when they open sourced it, basically they had it in mind to create some flexible alternative technology for REST. So we during the course of this lecture, we're going to think about or talk about the points where the GraphQL differs from the REST and what are the implementation choices or the design choices are taken in GraphQL which makes it separate from the REST. So if you think about GraphQL, it is just a specification, which means Facebook has not open sourced the libraries or the code for GraphQL. They have just published the specifications. So basically, whoever want to implement the GraphQL in whichever language it is, they have to have some kind of a library or a service or some kind of a code to be implemented for this particular specification. So since this is a specification, there are a number of implementations or the runtimes exists for GraphQL in all the major programming languages. And if you talk about Java, again there are a couple of programming choices or the implementation choices are available, and that we're going to tackle in this particular lecture. So if you think about GraphQL, who are the players in the industry which are using it currently? So since it is developed in Facebook, Facebook is obviously using it. But apart from Facebook, there are quite a few technology giants which are using it already. So Twitter uses it in a major way. GitHub uses it. Twitter and GitHub basically have open sourced their entire API as part of GraphQL schema. And during the course of this lecture, we're going to see how to query the GitHub API and how to fetch the details about your GitHub repos using GraphQL. So apart from the technology companies that you're seeing on your screen, there are quite a few major companies which are using GraphQL into their runtime environment. If you go to graphql.org, you see an entire section dedicated to the success stories of GraphQL. PayPal uses it in a major way, and they have experienced at least 25% reduction in the amount of data they transferred between browser and the servers, which is quite a major improvement. Okay, so having said that, let's check about what exactly is a GraphQL. So GraphQL is nothing but a query language for API. So if you go to graphql.org or graphql.com, basically it has given the implementation or the definition for what exactly is a GraphQL. So GraphQL basically describes the API that you want in terms of the schema objects, and those schema objects are types. Think of it as some kind of a POJOs that we define in Java world. So if you go to graphql.org, you can see the definition of GraphQL. Basically, GraphQL specification says that it is a query language for our APIs, and it is not only a query language, it's also a runtime for fulfilling that particular API or the queries that you write for your data. So GraphQL basically provides the documentation for your APIs by the means of the schemas that it provides. It gives client the power to basically tell the server what kind of a data it wants from a given endpoint. Okay, so it's a query language for an API. Client basically asks what exactly they want from the server. You can basically combine the different queries in a single endpoint and fire out onto the server and fetch the data in a single go. So basically when we go to an examples, we'll see how you can combine the data and fetch the data from the server side. So as I told you already, it is just a query language for API. It is again a specification, so the runtime has to be defined by the libraries who are going to implement it into that particular language. And yes, so it's a query language for defining your API, or basically defining how to fetch the data from a server side. It's a specification for your queries, and again it's a runtime to fetch the data from the server side. So in which scenarios basically we're gonna implement or use the GraphQL? Basically, if you have a client and the server side where the client is requesting the data using some kind of an HTTP endpoint, you can still fulfill that particular requirement using REST. So what the advantages which is given by the GraphQL to you? So basically the advantage with GraphQL, the major advantage with GraphQL is you basically combine the different resources in a single query and fetch that data. So GraphQL will somewhere sit between your client and your server to basically combine the data or the resources to which client is making a query. And if you have multiple clients and the multiple resources, GraphQL mediator makes perfect sense to basically start combining the different resources and fetching the data from the GraphQL server. To give you an example, suppose I have a author as an entity onto my server side and books as an entity onto my server side as well. And now if I have two different microservices for it, I have author service and I have a book service. So in a typical REST world, if I want to know the books written by an author, I need to make first call to the author service, get the author data, and using the author ID or something, I need to make another call to the book service and fetch the book data back. So I'm making multiple calls to the backend to get the data and show it onto my browser. So if we have a GraphQL in place, basically I can make a single query, and then GraphQL will take care of rerouting those query to different microservices, fetching the data, and then combining the data, and then showing it out onto the server side, onto the client side. So that is an advantage which GraphQL gives you, which reduces the number of round trip calls that we make between the client and the server. So in summary, uh, we basically look at it what exactly is GraphQL and how and when to use GraphQL. In the next lecture, we're going to find out what are the building blocks of GraphQL, mainly what is a GraphQL schema, how to define GraphQL types, how to define GraphQL queries, mutations, subscriptions, what are the data types in GraphQL. So see you in the next lecture. Thanks so much for joining in.